Wow, kind of quiet.
I'm on the other side. I think it's full circle. I'm not trying to be that teacher, but I'm
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. We had some event collisions today, but it works. So thank you for coming to Detroit. We switched around a lot of things tonight, and somehow it all came together, as it always does. We moved up a week so that we could coincide with demo day, and that meant pushing back an hour, which meant that we collided with the Whitnagamo. And yet here we are. We have a terrific program tonight, and I'm so pleased to see so many new faces and familiar faces. Please take advantage of all of the amenities that the Country Club has to offer, the food, the beverages, the good conversation. My name is David Bloom, and I'm really privileged to be able to MC an event with a terrific program thanks to our tireless screening team that has gone through, was it 12, 13 companies this month and put together this program. I have seen so many of you for the last few days at the several events that have gone on in Ann Arbor and Detroit around Tech Week. And one that I thought was particularly potent for this group, see that was supposed to be. Boom, was a talk given by Peter Walker of Carta. And you think, wow, Carta, what a great service for startups. They'll do my cap table, they'll help me organize my rounds. If I have less than $1 million raised, it's free. And as a result, Carta has brought in an amazing data set. It's surveilling in aggregate all of the startups in its database, and it's coming up with these numbers that Peter Walker, who's the data analyst at Carta, presented, was it Monday at Michigan Tech Week at the Big House. Here are 3 slides that I thought were particularly relevant for this group. The first one is, well, we've all seen that the seed and Series A round valuations are down. So a company that presented to us, same company, same fundamentals in 21, came in at a much higher valuation than it's coming in today. Looks really a lot like 2019. What I find so interesting about this graph is that its duration is the exact length of this group. This group that started in 2019 when interest rates, well, money was basically free then, and then interest rates went up. And then there was talk of them coming back down. Maybe this doesn't correlate exactly to interest rates. The second observation that Peter Walker made about fundraising, the number of seed extension, of bridge rounds, of rolling rounds, of early closes, that's reflected in the length of time between rounds, the ways that startups have to stretch our dollars in order to make ends meet and get to the next milestone. And then finally, we're seeing more down rounds than we've ever seen before. I wished that I was at the Michigan Venture Capital Association's awards dinner 2 weeks ago, where one of our godfathers, Skip Sims, gave his acceptance speech for the Lifetime Achievement Award that he amply earned. And in that speech, he challenged the VCs in attendance to stop doing cram downs, to stop mistreating the angels that brought them their deals. Needless to say, it was a very quiet room.
I clapped.
You thank you. We had one clap. I was out of town. I would have loved to have seen this and recorded it. I asked afterwards the head of the MVCA, who I was privileged to jam with last night, and he said, "Oh no, we did not record that." But remember, the VCs are the ones that grow up the companies that we present to them, so it's a happy partnership. And what I've been in my meetings with later stage investors encouraging them to do is to just have a sidecar vehicle as a rule, not as an exception. When you do that A round, when you do that follow-on round, to always make room for the angels that brought you this deal. Even if there's just 1 or 0, just make it a standard operating procedure, which is kind of what Skip was. Oh, no, that's backwards. So one of the challenges we have is this 2012 laptop. Today we're going to see a preview from Baru. Baru we met at the Michigan Angels Summit, followed by virtual? No.
No, I'm here.
You're here. I don't know why the word virtual is in there. By a live, not virtual Julia.
That is reality. Hey, you know.
Okay, well, but that is kind of what we're talking about. Two really cool presentations from Culturewell and Nanotherm, an update from Curio, and then our usual presenter and portfolio updates. We got a late start. I'm still going to try to keep this moving, so I am done yakking at you for now. I want to introduce Tino Go from Baru, and hopefully this laptop will cooperate in putting his slides up. Yes?
Or I can plug mine in.
That might, well, everybody cross your fingers, okay? Come on, Tino. So I'm going to vamp up very little about this while Tino does his AV work. Are you fixing slides?
No.
Let's just use these.
Okay. Or I've got a USB.
The things that normally work effortlessly are working effortfully today. So I would encourage you to just play the hand.
We can do that.
Thank you. Tino, let me get your slides up here and then I'll give you a timer and a proper. Is one of these you? This one?
Yes.
Okay.
It's big.
Sure is.
See, look at that.
Sail down.
All right.
No. Did I click on slideshow? I encourage you to stand within a couple of feet of the screen, and that way the folks watching at home can follow along. There
You
we
want to
go.
click on the bottom right corner slideshow sign,
Okay. Is that another way to do the same thing?
the bottom right corner, yeah.
Okay.
There's a little.
You take it from here, Tim. And here's the clicker. This oddly is advanced, and this is forward and that's reverse. So Tino had the audacity to come to the Michigan Angels Summit, where a bunch of angels get together and talk about finance and what deals have you seen and do we agree with Peter Walker's trends, and to do so as a venture looking for connections with angels. Audacious and brilliant. The screening team loved him. I hope you do too. Tino Go with Baru Custom Cabinetry. Tino, your 5 minutes begins now.
All right. Hi, my name is Tino Go. I'm the CEO and founder of Baru. Baru is a gig platform for underused manufacturing automation. So this all started a few years ago when I tried to get a bookcase for my house, and I discovered to get one made was a medieval process. That pissed me off because I knew those digital machines should be able to read my mind. So we built that. We built that link between what someone wants and what a machine does.
The down button is actually forward.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh man, it's this slow.
Oh, no.
How about this machine?
I think his machines are fast.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me,
Is it still loading?
I don't know what's happening.
Oh.
This is not acceptable.
There you go. Okay, what we're building is,
I apologize, Tina. Let's get you a proper laptop. Julia, if you're don't mind going first, we'll re-cue.
I'm good. I can
Okay.
do that. I don't have slides. I'm low tech.
Oh, no. However you like to do it is however we like to do it.
Apparently so David's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay.
you know, I can just plug in mine.
Please.
We'll recover maybe a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go or do you want to just wait?
Tina, your call. You want to pick up where we left off, or you
Yeah, I
want to
can-
pause and do some editing?
Yeah, I can.
I apologize, it's
It's all right.
like this.
The technology, right?
Well, I think it's the challenge of
I
a
know, I like it
well-utilized
already.
facility that we used up all their equipment and give us, well, there's a lot.
And so
And Kevin
somewhere
Baker's
back
are
there, there's a
usually
USB.
one or two man
Yeah,
strategy.
There you go.
And it is a medieval process. It is not,
I'll give you your time back.
it's not.
You have a remote?
I do not.
Use this. Plug that in, and then you gotta.
So you have time cabinets or something.
Yeah, I updated
And custom center, custom.
Well, right,
So this, yeah, this is.
might be.
That's you. And that's better.
Custom is.
I tried to get custom cabinets down for.
Thank you.
We're back.
As I was saying, Tino, go, but we're really.
Yeah, so Fiverr is a gig platform for underused manufacturing machines. Because what we're doing is we're preparing for the acceleration of digital manufacturing. Because whenever you have CapEx, you have excess capacity. We want to tap into that excess capacity. We're starting with cabinetry because there are 4,000 of these underused CNC machines in the cabinet shops and mill workshops all over the country. So just with the idle time on these machines, foreseeably, you could make $80 billion worth of cabinetry. Of course, that's theoretical. But the whole point is, by using this distributed virtual factory, you can eliminate all of the shipping and handling that wastes 40% of revenues. We can take that shipping and handling cost savings and reallocate it into other parts of the value chain. So we sell custom cabinetry, and our alpha was furniture. Every product is available in millions of variants. It's been engineered that way. Continuous sizing so everyone can get exactly what they want. And then we send the machine instructions and the materials to one of our local manufacturing partners. As opposed to sending the finished good, we're sending the code that drives the machine. We're dealer focused for volume and the repeat sales. So the problem that we're solving is design build, converting what someone has in their mind into machine instructions has always been a tedious manual process, and it's been iterative, between the designer, a client, and the manufacturing engineer. We've eliminated all of that. I think it's called technically BS. Use our manufacturing models and manipulate them, and it's dynamically changing the machine instructions at the same time. So what we've done is we've integrated design with manufacturing. That streamlines the entire process. There's that full integration between our manufacturing model, which is design ready, and artificial intelligence ready, generative design ready, to the machine at a local shop. So the reorganization of this value chain benefits the intermediaries, our dealers. They save 2 to 6 weeks off their process. They earn a new revenue stream because we pay them. And then customers, they get custom-made goods for 40% lower price, delivered 4 times faster. Manufacturers, they get easy sales and at double their profit rates. So we built this virtual factory. No CapEx, no inventory, no long-distance shipping. It reduces the cost structure by 40%, just eliminating that shipping and warehousing. We're already in 30 metro areas within our drive of 100 million Americans, their homes and their businesses. That was during our beta, $250,000 in sales. Now we're scaling with cabinetry. So the world looks like this: custom, non-custom, semi-custom, or custom at a super high price and super inefficient. Baru's introducing custom at every price point for everyone. Designers and contractors, they get a 4 times faster delivery, more efficient process, and higher profits and less risk. The team, David, 40-year veteran of the industry, he sold his business and joined Baru. Konstantin and he are building our first tech tool, which is an online configurator. Donna, Stanford MBA, over 25 years of brand, go-to-market, and growth marketing. My own background is, first in 12 years in the advertising industry, I ran my own company straight out of high school after I dropped out of my scholarships. And then the last 20 years, since 2000, I've been in corporate finance. The most recent years as CFO. The first company I joined was $12 million when I joined. We grew that to 85 million in the 5 years I was there. And my last company I oversaw a $1.2 billion business unit of a global company. I also invented the patents. So to date, we've had almost 500,000 in angel investors, a couple 100,000 of my own, and a grant for 25,000. We've achieved the operational proof of concept. Now we're starting to scale with sales, and we've got a couple of patents awarded. So we're raising $1 million, and with that $1 million, we'll be
Finish your sentence, please.
using that for growth. We expect to get between 7 and 10 million in the first year, because we'll
You only
be
get one sentence.
cash flow positive. We'll be able to grow into perpetuity with that $1 million.
Thank you, Tino. I'm sorry you had to be our crash test dummy.
It's okay.
Julia, do you want to try to use this setup? Do you want to use your own?
Oh, no, I don't have any slides.
And I can leave that there for whoever else needs it.
I heard that once. I'm just going to put it back to the point angel slide, if that's okay. Just plug it back in. It's okay. Yeah, where it was. Julia Winter, I first met at A2 New Tech, I think.
Oh, yeah, 8 New Tech.
At A2 New Tech. So for those of you familiar, A2 New Tech is a group that Doug and I started in 2009 and has showcased over 1,000 ventures. It was originally presented as a forum for innovators to talk with other innovators. It was a safe space. You would not get beat up because you were in a friendly room, and investors thought that we were too scruffy and nobody came. And then the investors figured out that there was actual value in the room, so they started showing up, and now it's very buttoned up and Shark Tanky, and
Oh, is it? It's
Yeah.
not the same.
it's not the same. But you know what? Times change, groups evolve. But I was impressed at A2 New Tech with the, oh, thank you. You're gonna need this. You're blowing your intro. With the way that Julia had pivoted her subject matter expertise to solve a problem that really was not being addressed in that marketplace. What you want to do is, yeah, you got this.
Don't let me distract
You couldn't possibly. So then I got to know Julia through the boot camp process, saw her present there, and you fell off my radar after that. And I think a lot of us lost track of our ecosystem contacts during the COVID times. And when Julia showed up on our radar again, it was at Undemo Day. So she and I were at Ford Field all day today having speed dates, and I'm giving her how to just went. For the next 5 minutes, please enjoy the presentation of Julia Winter and Alchemie.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you for having me. I'm Julia Winter, CEO of Alchemie. And after 25 years of teaching at Detroit Country Day School, I started a company. And I never knew it would take me to this place right now. So our company builds beautiful interactive learning tools for science. We focus on higher ed. We really want to make the learning experience interesting and innovative and exploratory, which leads to deeper, more meaningful learning. And we sell through a B2B business model. And the people who need us most are the big publishers. Their homework systems looked like something right out of the 1990s, and the digital natives, the kids coming along, look at this and they said, I'm supposed to learn with this. So we started working with all the biggest publishers after an NSF grant, where I met David right before we got our first NSF SBIR grant. And little company in Michigan building beautiful technology for chemistry and physics. And I was talking to the CEO of McGraw-Hill, all the product people at Wiley and Pearson and all of them. They all know each other. They knew who we were. And then we were working through proof of concept, getting it into market. And then all of a sudden they threw a kicker at me. Julie, can you make this interactive learning tools accessible to blind people? And I said, really? Really? They said, yep, in order to get to the market, because we're big companies and we work with big universities, if it's not accessible, it can't reach the market because they have really big targets on their back for litigation if it's not accessible. So the biggest education company in the world looked at the smallest ed tech company in Michigan and said, solve this problem for us. So I said, okay, we're innovative. We're from Detroit. We can do this. So with support from all of those publishers, they put letters in for our SBIR grants. Some of us gave non-dilutive or non-recurring engineering fees to support us as we grew this system. We went out and went for SBIR funding to solve the problem of accessibility that no one's solving. Now, here's how do you make learning tools accessible? Well, the current solution right now is they take for publishers' content, static pictures, they use humans to write descriptions that blind people can access through screen readers. That's not scalable. That's not modern. That's how they solve the problem now. And you can't use this for interactive learning tools that change with the user's use all the time. So what we have done, we build tools. We know how to build tools. With our last NSF grant, we created a system that can generate those descriptions called alt text, put them into the tools, and then of course we had to have an interface that blind people could use. We developed that too. And then all of a sudden, timing was perfect because the blind people actually need to interact with those descriptions. Well, so do regular students, so does the general population, because science concepts are taught with diagrams, and you use the diagrams to take the place of language. Guess what we did? We put that language right back in there. And so we tied it to ChatGPT, which we could tie to any large language model. And now a tool that was designed to help blind people learn science can be used by everyone to learn science. And we use AI, we use computer vision to look at our diagrams, we use machine learning, all the buzzwords, and we raised over $2 million in SBIR funds, thanks to those publishers. We're at an awesome inflection point where now, in the last 2 days, we've got a proof of concept going with Wiley. Pearson talked to us yesterday, and just yesterday, out of the blue, 2 K-12 companies said, I saw you talk at the Ed Games Expo in DC. Can you help us make our tools accessible too? So it's a really interesting inflection point. We've been supported by Blue Water Angels, Northern Michigan Angels, and Bell, Michigan up until this point. Looking forward to probably early 2024 structuring a round to expand beyond education into workforce training, into other ways to use these diagram drawing tools and AI to help people learn hard subjects better. And that's my pitch. Not really a pitch, but
It's a story.
a story.
Thank you,
story.
Julia, for that story.
Yeah.
I agree. I have one for you. Yes. We have a remote for you. Actually, is that right there? No, yeah. You're gonna try to do it on this one? Okay, you're brave.
We have a PDF, it's easier. Yeah.
So if you're
We're
gonna stop
stopping.
like this,
Lessons learned.
down buttons advance.
All right.
It helps that you know what you're doing.
So,
We actually saw Culturewell in the screening team in the spring and gave what we give to all the companies to come through screening, which is anonymize and then give them back all of the comments that the screeners make in order for them to have the benefit of those eyes on their work, whether they're going to be presenting to this group or not. Then once again, the summer was busy and quiet. This fall, we see that Culturewell has brought on a director, has brought on a bunch of partners where their solution is currently actually not being tested, but being used. And we put them back through the screen and they got 4 chips, which is rare. So I was very excited to present today Sarah Beatty and Culturewell. Sarah, your 15 minutes begins now.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Beatty. I'm the founder and CEO of Culturewell. What we do is we are an infection and financial risk mitigation platform for healthcare and beyond. Nice to meet you. Healthcare-associated infections are something that occurs in hospitals all the time, every single hospital around the country, and they are entirely preventable. Except we have no way of getting data to solve this problem. Healthcare-associated infections specifically are something that happens when someone fails to wash their hands, a surgical tool or implement is dirty, or the actual healthcare environment itself is contaminated or wasn't cleaned effectively. And for example, the CDC in 2021 released a report that said patients who occupy a clean patient room are 6 times more likely to get the infection that the previous occupant had. So if that isn't a smoking gun for we need to be doing a lot more, I don't know what is. Hospitals in the United States, they spend $31 billion annually on trying to solve this problem, stitching together solutions, technologies like UV disinfection, chemical disinfectant solutions, and policy enhancements. All the while, they are actually not addressing the root cause of there are germs on surfaces and we're not actually cleaning effectively. And that creates substantial pain from hospitals from multiple financial and risk angles. So for example, the average Medicare penalty, which by the way, every single hospital in the United States is getting Medicare payments, right? So if they have high infections, they are subject to a 1% Medicare haircut, meaning that's an entire 1 year of 1% of all of their Medicare revenues cut and given to those top performers. So there's also incentive on the upside. The average penalty for the hospitals that we target is $5.6 million. And it goes higher the higher your payer mix of Medicare actually is. Substantial pain. And that is publicly available information, which leads to low quality scores. Patients can walk with their feet because of this publicly available information and go to a provider that has better infection rates. Hits the hospitals there. But the most important metric is that if you have a patient that gets an HAI in your facility, they're going to stay for an extra 6.5 days on average. Length of stay is the primary financial modulator for how well are we doing and how well is our hospital's financial engine running. And I know that based on my background in healthcare administration. And I've even worked right down here at Ascension. So the 6.5 days is something where they're not getting cost recovery from insurance, and they are getting hit with a significant opportunity cost. So you have a patient that should have been discharged already, but instead you're eating the cost of care for that patient who's often on IV antibiotics. It's long, it's complicated, and it's messy. There usually are not opportunities to discharge because of the whole situation with skilled nursing facilities since the pandemic. And you could have a more lucrative a patient in that bed. So hospitals really want to prevent these infections. but they really don't have the data to prevent them. So how things are actually tracked in healthcare right now is that if you want to track your infections, usually your microbiology lab is preparing a manual report in Excel. And then you pay infection preventionists to determine whether or not it's actually a true healthcare-associated infection, report it to Medicare. And from a cleaning perspective, if you're doing audits on how well your cleaning is being done, guess what? That's also on pen and paper. So it was a prime opportunity for something to get a digital solution that actually works for hospitals and is custom designed for hospitals. So to highlight, we are taking a situation where there's significant delays in data. So for example, if I'm an infection preventionist, I am always in firefighting mode because the main predictors, main metrics for how do I know what's going on in this facility are usually lagged by 2 weeks, but usually you're looking at 30-day admission rates to see, do I have an outbreak going on? So by the time you actually find out that you have an outbreak, it's already too late. And it's already way worse than what your actual data is telling you. And then, oh yeah. And so when we have a solution like what we put together with Culturewell and we've optimized it for exactly what hospitals need, what if you could detect outbreaks before they actually hurt people, before they show up in the news? Think about that bottom line risk. What if you could actually get results on how well your cleaning compliance program was performing within 18 hours? What if you could get a critical call just like you get from your clinical lab, but for your environmental testing? And after doing like hundreds of customer discovery calls, we found that existing solutions available in the market were fundamentally unable to support the needs of healthcare. Think like PDF report 2 weeks later. Our solution, like I said, it's a healthcare financial risk and infection prevention platform. So what we do is we have a digital dashboard that supports our specific on-site sampling process to get people custom calibrated trendable results. And this is what they see 18 hours after our samplers go on site who are trained to get the right sample, the right location, at the right time. They swab a bedside table, high-touch surfaces. They swab a light switch. They swab a bed rail. And then they get a heat map of their facility that shows them where the actual hotspots are. It gives them a breakdown of why the risk is being set the way it is, because guess what? They don't have to tell us what they're looking for. We can tell them if it's viable, it's there, we can tell you what it is. So if there's Candida I got you. If there's a mold, I've got you. If there's an NDRO, I've got you, and beyond. And again, all within 18 hours. Our platform actually uses generative AI with our substantial QA on our side of things to teach people about the particular germs that are growing in their environment, how they can be most effectively disinfected, and what products can actually work for them. Furthermore, they actually get evidence-based advice, which we have, it's called the Machine Learning Action Engine. And what it's doing is saying for your particular context, say an outbreak in a cardiovascular ICU from something being sourced in the sink, where it's like being splashed out of the sink and depositing on surfaces within the room, we can give them, for your particular use case, these are the top 3 interventions as reported in the scientific literature that you can actually do right now, silver platter, go for it. We stop there, but we come back next month, or however often they want us to come back. So this is an ongoing cleaning compliance program to make sure that regardless of the shift, that all of the quality that the hospital system is actually attempting to build in is actually being achieved. Our product, it is designed from the very inception to be something that is actually hyper-scalable. So those samplers I mentioned, those are gig workers that are specialized, they understand the needs of healthcare. They're not just a random person. And what they do is they go in, they sample, they put it in a FedEx box, ship it to our lab that will always be based here in Michigan. And they get results 18 hours from them. In our lab, which we decided to keep vertically integrated to protect the multiple trade secrets that we've designed around our product, we perform the testing ourselves. One of the reasons we're seeking funding today is to use robots to fully automate that using solutions that are already available off the shelf, which allows us to grow like the software and data company that we actually are, instead of the linear progression that you typically expect from, say, a capital-intensive laboratory. And the results are delivered on that web portal. Notably, and this is real data that we have for the clients that we do engage with, which includes large medical centers across the United States, we average about $9K a month per single sampling event. So when we send a contractor there, they're there for 4 hours, we get $9K. We do downstream work in the lab that does take longer than that, but typically the process is finalized at 48 hours, and if there's a mold, they get a supplemental updated report because they love to take time to grow. And specifically, our business model ended up being, we didn't know this at the start, but we iterated on it. It's really land, expand, repeat. It was the thing that kept me up at night though, because I didn't know if one of my clients started at red and eventually got to green, we call it, when they have a green heat map finally on a given unit. I was worried that they would stop using us. But instead what happened is that they said, yeah, but we know our process is so variable. We still need that data, but now that we've already had success here, we need you over on this unit now. And so when you look at our revenue growth chart, it's exponential, especially for our clients that have been using us every single month, sometimes more often because of outbreaks, for an entire year now. Our market is really acute care hospitals. Those are the people that meet the primary major intersection of all of the potential risks that we talked about earlier. By year 5, we can get $23 million in revenue. And again, that's just in our initial target market. Notably, our product works anywhere anybody cares about cleaning, and I don't have to change a thing, which is very exciting. Our go-to-market strategy, it's really tailored to healthcare because that is our primary focus. A lot of conferences, journal articles, awareness marketing, that sort of thing. And specifically, like common question, our typical buyers are directors of infection prevention, directors of environmental services, but now that we're starting to actually get traction in the market, we're starting to talk to COOs. And they really like the harmonization that it allows us to help them achieve, especially when we're talking with national health systems that are trying to figure out how do we standardize our processes throughout every single one of our hospitals in the United States. And this is the path for them. So ultimately, we're helping them save money by reducing length of stay. We're strengthening their competitive position, and they're able to spend more wisely by strategically deploying their resources, because that's what the directors of environmental services actually use us for, is do I need people to clean the same way on every single unit, or is this other unit always hot and I actually need more resources here to minimize my actual infection risk in my facility? So to date, we already have a fully functional lab that has been serving clients for more than a year. We have a software platform that enables us to do this direct result delivery, where if we have a client that really wants some results, they can sit there and spam refresh on our dashboard and get that result as soon as it comes off the lab. And so right now we have 5 clients. No one has bounced off of us yet. And we've done more than 23 sampling events now. Notably, every single time we have been paid for our work. We've never had to give it away for free. And we have prevented more than 3 outbreaks that the existing technology in the market could not actually detect because they tried before they called us. And we've recovered more than 400 germs, different kinds, from everywhere from Michigan to Florida to Texas. In the near term, I've got 40 leads from a June conference. We're selling to 11 prospects, which includes more than one national hospital system, and existing clients continue to book with us, creating a capacity problem for me. So right now, I've got a very manual laboratory with no automation. So I need people, equipment, and bodies. And our capacity is completely tied up with current clients, meaning that when I land one of these national healthcare systems, I'm kind of already on my back foot, which is why we're fundraising right now, because we've actually bootstrapped up to this point, and we have a major opportunity in front of us if we can get me out of the lab, selling, working with these clients that I can just connect with in a really organic way. And we're going to use that funding to actually implement automation, hire the team that I can call tomorrow and get immediate capacity out of. And then longer term, become an actual standard of care. We've already been working on the regulatory path for this, talking with the CDC. They're very interested because we are one of the first companies to figure out how to, number one, standardize sampling results in a way that can be trended and analyzed, and we're the only environmental lab in the country that can do this. Our team, I'm the CEO, my background started as a bench tech in a clinical microbiology lab here in Michigan, and I worked my way up, having a passion for process improvement in healthcare, went to University of Michigan, got my executive MBA, and did some consulting for a bit. And I launched Culturewell after I burned out running a COVID lab at the top of the pandemic. Thank you.
Take an extra minute, just one,
Sure.
and then we'll go to Q&A.
We're asking for $3 million. Right now, we're $210,000 away from our first close. We're doing a rolling close, sound familiar? And that $1 million gets us to 500K capacity. It allows us to put deposits on that automation, get the final lab that we'll ever need, again, based here in Michigan. Thank you.
Let me ask the softball first question that gets you to back up one slide. What was that eye chart about?
The what?
Go back up one slide.
I'm giving you a softball.
Thank you, thank you.
No worries.
It's her numbers. I'm Jen, by the way. I was up on that slide. She was about to introduce me.
Yes.
So
Ran out of time.
if you turn this into a pie chart, and I didn't have to use it as an eye chart,
You have to.
how much is sales and marketing? How much is R&D, which we realize is extension of what you already have. It's not building, you have that already. It's building on. And how much of it is general and administrative? So
Yeah.
S&M, R&D, GA. Three
Easiest
wedges.
answer is 60% is going to that like working capacity of the use of funds for the lab, working capital to get us to all of our next milestones. Notably, what you can see in this model is with this fundraise, we actually are modeling that we're going to achieve break even. The rest of it is really pushing hard on marketing. I'd love to actually raise even more money above the 3 million if we can, and oversubscribe it, because there are plenty of things that we can actually do.
What's the stretch milestone that you hit when you get that extra?
That's when we can start actually talking patents on stuff. But those patents are actually not part of the critical path. The easiest way for a bootstrap company to actually get to profitability is just sell.
Sure.
So I had to make that decision. But what those patents do is actually give us even stronger of a competitive moat once people figure out that we're actually making a ridiculous amount of money helping people. We're going to see a bunch of competitors enter the market, and while we already have a scientific advantage on them,
Yeah.
I want to completely, make it no competition from our perspective.
Thank you for that. Questions for Sarah? I can
Just-
keep softballing her all day. What's up, baby?
I mean, just flowing from that, the patents, what do you want the patents to cover?
Specifically, the patents actually cover aspects of the sampling process that allow us to further control the pre-analytical variables that go into the sampling process that allows us to rapidly acquire samplers with ease to continue to grow.
So as you add the automation to it, that all comes as a package.
Yeah, like the strategy here is, we're getting robots in the lab, so I can take these samples out of the FedEx box that I mentioned, dump them in a hopper and get microbiology results at the end. So instead of having a 300-person lab we have a 15-person lab at year 5 because of that automation. And that's already existing technology.
Kimberly and then Kimberly.
Yeah, that was my question on the automation. So
Yeah.
what you need the automation for, so you don't have to send out the samples.
Yeah, we get to keep a lot of that intellectual property in-house. We get to keep our biobank in-house, which is incredibly valuable. And then we get to keep all of the bioinformatics analysis that we can do at later stages in-house as well, because we control all of our data.
Why don't you hand me the remote? Because I
I don't like to use my appendix.
know, you don't, but we're gonna help you.
All right. Well, this is why we have a team.
That's why we don't team.
So Kimberly.
Yeah, and since you said about bioinformatics, that was my question about,
Oh, yes.
what kind of techniques do you use to identify these germs? Like, is it sequencing, what is it?
Yeah, so I'm pretty passionate about this, but I'll keep it brief. We're really putting, viability is what actually matters in healthcare. You can't use PCR in healthcare because you can't distinguish between living and dead. So we actually put those samples to Augur in a special way, and we actually use proteomics to get those rapid genus and species IDs, which can actually just take seconds once you have a viable colony that's growing happily. And then that allows us to build custom databases and libraries for each one of our clients to say, no, this MRSA has never been here in your facility before. Or at
This
least in
MRSA
places.
as opposed to all
This
MRSA.
MRSA, yes.
Because you can kill the
and that's
last one. and make the
Very
next one.
relevant for outbreak tracking, epidemiology, and detection. And so that's where we have a ton of opportunity to play and start displaying things like patient data, demographics, and information. But that's a later stage plan.
Over here. Oh. It's your shot, man. All right. Anybody else?
And
So
since
give her
you
that.
said, so what kind of devices do you use for proteomics, and then what's your competition?
Yeah, so the easiest way to describe it is it's a GCMS, but for bacteria.
En inglés, por favor.
And what was your next question?
The competition.
Oh, yeah. Generally, it's a giant science laser that gives you an IR spectra of each germ. You
I liked
compare
it
it
when
to
it
a
was an acronym.
database.
No.
I don't wanna ask
A
this.
giant-
You're right, I'm sorry.
You compare it to a database and you can actually use that data and information to make strategic decisions.
I think we have our soundbite. It's the giant science laser.
It's kind of my favorite.
It is, I've seen it. It's a laser, it's
Yeah.
around.
It's fantastic. And then from a competition perspective, I can answer that question in 2 ways. From in terms of like what other companies are out there doing exactly what we're trying to do, there really aren't any. There's a couple that have tried and failed because they've failed to understand the needs of healthcare, needing viability-based solutions. Other startups not having a single person in healthcare on their team and trying to sell into healthcare, which we all know does not work. And as an insider in healthcare, I know these things. But specifically from a technology perspective, and that's what you see up here, thank you, Jen. Status quo right here, clean and hope for the best. There's really no technology at play, and that's what most hospitals in the United States are actually doing right now. That also applies for long-term care facilities. But the hospitals that are actually trying to do something, are actually trying to detect outbreaks, they're usually doing traditional swabbing. This is something that they're shipping off, they're trying to sample it, it's self-sample, you're shipping it off to the lab, you're getting a 2-week PDF report, and they just throw it over the fence at you. Like they have no context for what's going on. We've built in that context from the ground up. When it comes to like somebody's like really trying to get something done, really trying to evaluate their cleaning crew, they're typically using ATP testing. This is great because it's a bedside swab, but we're not actually trying to replace that technology, even though our clients are actually replacing that technology with us for budgetary reasons, which is great for us. But it has a purpose. It was developed in food to say, is there something here that isn't supposed to be here? But you can't use that information, and it's incredibly challenging to actually get intelligent results out of it. So for example, most of the most common healthcare disinfectant invalidates the results from that test.
I'm
You
so
actually
glad
can't
you
use it.
said that.
Yes.
Put up the Clorox slide, please.
There's a Clorox
We
wipes.
saw Clorox go by and that got,
Clorox wipes.
it's not a space laser, I know what that is, yeah. Because you've got 2 Clorox stories to tell and.
Is that what you're looking at?
Which-
We don't actually have
Well,
one.
you saw it too, which one was it in?
I don't know, but the whole time I'm thinking Clorox wipes.
So the 2
Another-
Clorox stories are you putting Clorox out of business?
No.
And is Clorox gonna buy you?
Yes.
Please tell us 2 stories about Clorox.
Yeah, so we actually have what we call a channel partner program that helps healthcare disinfection technology vendors, whether it's chemical disinfectants or like say an autonomous UV robot, sell into hospitals. Because we show up, do exactly what we already do, and do a pre and post test at their demo. This has been great for us as a bootstrap company because it allows us to get direct personal access for 4 hours to the exact stakeholders that are gonna buy Culturewell. And it's fully paid by the vendor. So travel, lodging, everything gets paid by the disinfection technology vendor.
Wow, I like
And
that
the
you're watching
hospital-
your dollars, but the more
Yes.
valuable thing was the introduction, not the expenses.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we get that introduction but from that experience, they're getting a measure of efficacy of, does this product work in my facilities, which we all know for those of us in healthcare, that's where case studies go to die because everyone says that's not my hospital. How dare you generalize? So, and then from is Clorox or something like that going to buy us? Absolutely. So you
There
can
is.
actually start to see, yes, you can actually start to see these bigger companies trying to figure this out. How do we actually get ahead of stuff instead of being reactive? And you can see that they'll try and like market their ATP or chemical solutions and that sort of thing. So not only can we partner with them to help them sell their particular product in hospitals by actually giving them a proof of concept in their facility, which is gold, we can also be directly leveraged by a company like that to say, this is like our entire suite and product of services. But
So
I
break
actually
it
do
down
think
for
we
me.
can do more than that.
Because Ed is champing at the bit now.
No,
You want to take the
no.
next question? I'm going to ask it
No,
for
no,
you.
All right.
Show us the early Clorox exit and then show us the late big Clorox exit.
Yes. So
Was
it's
that the question
actually,
or wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So it's really,
No, we still have.
we're not trying to sell this company tomorrow. We are actually trying to stay in long enough to get an even bigger play, an even bigger strategy executed. So.
You could sell now. Yeah, don't.
You don't want to
Yeah.
suffer a buck now.
No, I can add some zeros to that. I truly believe that. And that's what our meeting with the CDC said. So I booked that meeting a year ago. We had a connection with them in April. I thought I was going to talk to some lady in procurement, and instead there were 12 CDC directors on my call. Thankfully, I was prepared, and they were grilling me on the technology and trying to get me up with all of these gotchas. Did you think about this? Did you think about this? And I said, no, this is really this is purposely designed to solve all of these problems in healthcare because like my unique background, and we didn't really cover this, but working at the intersection of clinical microbiology and environmental biology from a technical side and a leadership side, working on grant collaborations with the CDC and WHO, seeing them ask for in their grants ancient technology that was a solution 30 years ago, and then kind of being rebuffed actually when I said, there's a better way and this is how we could do it. And they were afraid back then. But I knew that because there was this actual need out there that they were putting these grants out, which is not part of our critical path either, I knew that they were trying to figure out that solution. And I kept telling myself, boy, when somebody figures this out, I'm going to join that company. I'm going to do some good work for them.
You, yeah.
And I would I'd throw my hands up in the air and be like, why has no one figured this out yet? And I launched Culturewell.
Jay, and then John.
You just touched on something important. What are the risks to the hospital for having this data?
Exactly.
Or
That
for
was
not having it.
absolutely.
For having it?
Oh,
That was actually
Yeah.
the
Yes.
screener's comment in spring. It's like, no
Yes.
hospital wants this.
Once you
So,
know it and you don't take action.
Like I
Oh, yeah,
said,
right.
I did hundreds of customer discovery calls, like using like my former colleagues at, like when I went to school with, doctors and physicians who ended up being CEOs at hospitals all around the country. And I called them, and that was one of my very first questions is, I know that if I were a leader in any one of these facilities that I would actually want to know, because the status quo ain't working for me. But also,
The cost of not having the data was high.
could be, why don't
Yes.
you have Culturewell?
I concur. That's my next question.
What's wrong with it?
Would the CDC or someone, this should really be public data, right? I should be able to go on and meet
Oh,
with all
yes.
the hospitals and determine where I want to be.
this data is actually already publicly available, not from Culturewell.
Huh.
the hospitals, as part of this penalty program, are required to report all of their infection data. So you can, right now, go onto hospitalcompare.gov, look up your personal favorite hospital and see what their C. diff infection rates are, their MRSA infection rates are.
That's an interesting play.
Everybody just wrote down that URL.
Please do that.
I'm
Yeah.
watching the chief legal officer of the hospitals,
Yes.
as well as the CEOs.
I was gonna say,
Anytime CEOs get
Yes.
stopped by somebody else who's
We did that.
have you talked to
We
their
did.
insurance company?
We did
Oh,
that,
yes.
and you guys got.
It's so exciting.
We gotta think about this. This question has come up. We've talked to the legal representatives, and there are programs designed that Culturewell fits into to solve this. The question is not, the data is not patient specific. So the risk to the legal is this patient going to sue me? That can't happen with Culturewell, because Culturewell is this room clean?
Yeah.
And that the hospital is required to have a program to improve and demonstrate that they're improving. That's the answer.
That's the course.
Culturewell is the answer to the legal problem, not the problem itself.
And by the way, CMS issued a directive on March 9th of this year that said, we actually need to expand the process improvement activities that are actually occurring in all ICUs around the country as part of participating in this mandatory program and getting Medicare reimbursement. And so they said,
That's a license.
you actually need to be
Yeah,
doing process improvement in every single one of these facilities. And you want to know what they highlighted as this is the type of program that we want to see, and this is what they actually sent to the Joint Commission for their auditors to actually audit to, is risk-based prevention of healthcare-associated infections.
That's us.
That's us. So even though we didn't know about that, when we actually went through and looked at this list, we were able to find that for our current clients that use us on those units, they're already in compliance with that program.
That's great.
Sarah Beatty,
Thank you.
Culturewell. Are you going to use yours or are you going to use ours? Are you? Andy, are you?
Oh, if the acrobat seems to work for them, so we'll try it with.
Okay, I'm gonna set that up, but first I'm gonna introduce Michaela Trexler, who Point Angels brought on last month as our ecosystems manager. Michaela is she wears the turban for Nanotherm. She scouted Nanotherm, she teed up Nanotherm, she sent Nanotherm to screen. It did very, very well in screen. I think Michaela is adding a lot of value to our operations, so please welcome Michaela. And Michaela, will you please introduce Nanotherm?
Yeah, thank you,
But
David.
first yourself.
Oh, yeah, of course. So Michaela Trexler, I'm a daughter of the Metro Detroit area. I grew up here and I spent a little time out in Boston and then came back to Wayne State to do my PhD in biomedical engineering. And then along the way, I did some biotech startups, and then I found myself in conversation with David in Ann Arbor. And so we got to talking, and I heard about Point Angels and what you all are doing here. And I think it's so important to be able to launch these startups from a place of ideation to true innovation. And so I am glad to join the team. So I'm here as your ecosystem manager. If you're an investor, reach out to me. If you're a startup, reach out to me. And I'm here to make connections valuable. So thank you.
So you're not on the thumb drive, are you?
No,
Okay.
I'll just connect.
And Michaela, would you introduce Nanotherm?
Yeah, of course. So Nanotherm, I met at GM Ventures. It was a social that we had in coordination with the auto show and some of that tech that was going on last month. And so I met Andy and got to talking about Nanotherm and some of the really cool technology that they're doing with heated materials, how they can transform basically any material, any surface into a high-tech temperature controlled system. So I'll let Andy take it from here.
Just 1 second.
Thank you, Michaela, and apparently we need this to go well so I can hire Michaela as a consultant.
Dibs.
Yeah.
So I'm Andy Dixon, I'm CEO of Nanotherm. We have been using some nanotechnology to make a functional pigment for paints and coatings, and that makes literally any surface you can paint is now a heater. What we found when we started making prototypes was we were particularly good at conductive heating, so that means seat heaters or steering wheels or things like that. So when we were approached a few years ago by Hyundai to make a car seat heater, we did it at the Open Innovation Lounge, and we did the passenger side of one of the Palisade cars. That was the seat, the armrest, the door panel, the glove box, and the seat back. It went well. They liked what they saw, and they asked us to do an entire car. We did a Genesis car, and now we're on our third test vehicle with them. So I'll get into some of that later. But what we have is typically in a conductive heating environment, we use 50% less power, 90% less weight. Carbon nanotubes don't weigh much. 70% faster heating. They get hot really fast. That's for heating. We also do erosion protection, static dissipation, and EMI shielding. Those are just residual benefits of having nanotubes in the coating. What we found is that we're compatible with almost any surface, commercially viable price points. That's important because before, when I was making nanopaper, it was so expensive, so difficult to make. The only people who would talk to us were NASA and Airbus. Now that we're in the realm of where automotive will listen to us, we know that we're commercially viable for other markets. And then patent protected as well. This was the picture that when this happened, I knew we were onto something. So this is the typical car seat heater, the one that's in your car today. It's a nichrome wire that's stitched into a fabric. We made our version of that same thing. So same surface area, but a painted panel, and put it in there. And what we found, in fact, this isn't even our data, this is from our partner. We got to the temperature they wanted. We used half the power to get there, 6 volts instead of 12 volts, 15 watts versus 30. And we got there in 13 seconds instead of a minute and a half. So that's important when it's cold, and well, you all are in Michigan, you know. So that matters. But more importantly, it saves energy. And that means if you're not putting wattage into the passenger cabin to heat people, you got more wattage to move the car down the road. Extending the range is critically important. So then we realized what we were onto and sort of capitalized on that. Originally, it was always paint. You had to spray paint it. That was the only way we could do it. We've since figured out how to do roll-to-roll and tapes. So our next car, the car we're doing now, is all roll-to-roll, except for the exterior surfaces. We're doing some other outside safety things that we painted. So we're going to do 3 things. We're going to do roll-to-roll or films. We're going to do paint, and we're going to do pre-preg into the composite itself. When we do wind turbine, or we did a wing for GE, this is our 3rd stage gate review for GE Wind. We literally paint the entire blade, heat only the surface. So right now they blow hot air into the wing and try to heat the whole wing to de-ice it. You don't need the heat inside the wing, you need the heat on the surface. So we get hot very quickly, melt the ice, it breaks away, it can keep moving the blade. Also very good at erosion control, so that's important for them too. And well, the 3rd test we're going to do with them is lightning strike protection. We believe we can make a Faraday cage out of that blade. Now they're not, if they get hit by lightning, it won't matter as much. We're going to do some tests. We're going to get 1 of 2 things: a smoking sample, or we're going to try to focus on 2 things. Mobility. We have lots of applications. That's a problem. It's platform technology. You can use it everywhere. We're going to focus on mobility because we have a lot of traction there. We're talking 9 different automotive OEMs right now. And I'm up here in Michigan all the time. So we're doing that primarily for range, improving range, lightweighting, and lower cost. And then more importantly this year we found is battery thermal management. So they want to keep these batteries warm in the cold, and they want to keep them at an optimum temperature when they're running. That'll also make them, or help them extend the range. So these are the kinds of applications we're doing already. I've talked a lot about these interior applications. Everything we've learned, we're going to move on to the drones. We're talking to the Supernal and some other drone companies about not only the passenger cabin heating, but also safety, erosion control on the props, de-icing on the critical surfaces of the plane or the drone, and battery warming as well, if there's batteries in the drone. And then this year, we're working on side mirrors, wiper blades, wheel wells, door handles, other things exterior to the car. So literally the same coating that's inside will be the same coating that's, outside providing heat where we want it there. The other one of focus is architecture. I'm using this in my house right now for radiant heat in the floor, kitchen, sun porch, kids' bathroom, those kinds of areas. Snow melt, I don't shovel snow at my house now, and I'm in my 4th year of doing that. It's wonderful.
You painted your driveway with the stuff.
I put a panel underneath the concrete, and then we heat through the concrete. So I just divert the power from the air conditioner over to the driveway in the winter and use it that way. So we see big opportunities in architecture. In fact, this is my kitchen floor. It's not my kitchen, but that's my kitchen floor. This is a space heater that we made for an Italian consumer products company. Their existing heaters are ugly oil-based radiant heaters, and we thought a company like that should have something more stylish. So we made a flue heater. Turns out it uses about 650 watts of power instead of 1,550 watts of power. So, and this is my sidewalk in my front. The sidewalk and porch and side porch are done about 1,200 watts total. So a little less than a hairdryer to heat the sidewalk. The reason I show the runway here, that's a long way off, but we're doing a test at the Ohio State Airport. We've done a 800-foot long section of concrete at the fuel depot, under 8 inches of concrete, just to see if we could do it. It worked. There's a project that the FAA is funding called Pegasus. So we're going to try to do some experiments up where they park the blimp when it comes to town. It only comes to town twice a year, so we can use that area for our tests. So a little history on it. This was actually, when I was busy making nanopaper and finding out it was too expensive and too difficult to make, there was a guy down in Rice University named Dr. Kissel. He was studying under Rick Smalley, who got the Nobel Prize for buckyballs. He was doing a project for Boeing. They wanted nano wires to make lightweight wires for the aircraft. He had this thing in his wall, looked like a horse's tail. And I asked him what it was. He said, those are my nano wires. I can only make them that long. And that was the extent of the project. So it failed. But while he was doing that, he learned how to make coatings. And he learned how to keep them shelf stable and apply to room temperature and cure at room temperature. And I said, we need to talk. So long story short, I ended up with the patents I needed, and he gave me the recipe, the real trade secrets. And we started making coatings about 2016, 2017. When I say commercially viable, I'm talking about price points. I can now buy 10 pounds of nanomaterial for, well, let's do it on a per gram basis. It used to be $5,000 a gram. Now it's about 12 cents a gram. And I can get it even cheaper than that. So that's the price reduction we've seen. In 2021, we partnered with Hyundai. Now we've got our roll-to-roll running, and we've been asked if we can do 30 million square feet of radiant floor heating. We've been asked to quote for 100 million pieces for battery thermal management. So there's interest, and now we have the capacity to do it. But we think those things are a little ways away, which is why we're doing some other, I'll get into the nearer term revenue opportunities, which are of interest to you guys. We're talking to Hyundai, Tata, 8 or 9 other automotive, GE for wind, and other wind companies. So that's, I think, longer term could be an important application, because erosion control is a big problem. They won't admit it. The blades are supposed to last 20 years. They don't. When it ices, even in Texas, when it ices, the things stand still. So, and in fact, that's how we got the project, was after that snowstorm or ice storm in Texas in February, the next month we had a 16-foot blade in our shop from GE. They said, fix this. So that's how that happened. In just the last month, even, we've been talking to GM and Auto Aviation. I'm going out next week to meet with Auto about de-icing of the wings. I hope we can get the wings done before while I'm still here on the planet. We added, by the way, there was a company, Instant Brands was our consumer appliance company that we were partnered with. They went bankrupt this summer. Turns out that was a good thing for us because the next morning we've sent out inquiries to 10 different competitors of theirs, thinking that one or two would respond. Well, every single one of them responded, and every single one of them wants samples. So we're scrambling to meet those needs. The other one that's happening right now is European rail cars. There's a company called Thermon. We did a comparison. In the rail car, it's not as critical for weight, but it still matters. Theirs is 72 pounds per rail car for their heaters. Ours is about 24 ounces.
What?
Yeah, so it's not even a fair fight.
Wow.
When we did, the German auto engineers, so our friends in Germany, the three-letter auto company over there, they said, we tested your heaters and they were exactly the same performance as our silver paste heaters. So you have no advantage in terms of the amount of energy used. And I said, well, that's because you're heating a big metal plate, which is different than heating a car seat. And I said, well, if we're exactly the same as silver paste heaters, this is great news because we win on price and we win on weight because we're a whole lot cheaper than silver and a whole lot lighter weight as well. So that's where we're working on building battery heaters for them. What else? Oh, and the other benefit for us when Instant went bankrupt, we hired a consultant from there to help us in the consumer space. So she's helping navigate us through all these other competitors that we have engaged. These are the prototypes I think we can get to revenue quickly. The space heater I mentioned, a little crock pot for tailgating, is battery operated. Lightning kettle boils water. You can boil a tea in 35 seconds. A little drink tumbler to go with it. It'll keep the drink hot for a whole day. And then these pizza heaters, this was made for a pizza bag, but turns out that they want it in heated blankets, Snuggie. I don't even like the idea, but they want to know about heated Snuggies. So we're going to do that. Those are the things we think we can sell and make money while we're trying to get automotive and aviation and wind and all those longer putts will be there, but we're going to make some money in the meantime. So that's how we're going to do it. So I mentioned we're leveraging the money that was invested while at Rice. We've been validated in lots of different industries for radiant heat, for de-icing, for boiling water and tea kettles. This whole thing started with a conversation from Hyundai who said, we want to put $10 million in on a $40 million pre, but then they told me later that they needed a lead investor. Well, that was an important detail. So we regrouped and we said, what do we really need here? And what we decided was we need to raise $4 million to get us through 2 years of time, hit some milestones, add value, and do this in a logical sort of stair-step fashion rather than raise 10 million and then ever suffer a down round. So we don't want to do that. So our Midwest bootstrapping has gotten us this far, but we need some more capital to grow a little faster. We're raising 4 million on a 28 million pre, but we're offering the angel groups a safe note and we're capping it at the behest of other angel groups. They've all said, we don't do discounts to the safe, to the A round, because we don't know if they're going to close. Cap it. So we're going to cap it at 15 million pre to make it attractive. I used to run an angel group, so I know what you guys are looking for.
Not a UAV.
Sorry. And then most of this is going to go to operations. We do have some key hires we want. Michaela, of course, and the guy who invented the roll process, we want to bring him in-house, keep all that knowledge in our backyard. So we want to hire some people. We want to do some more testing and then really optimize the roll-to-roll. Most of this is going to be to optimize that roll-to-roll process so that we can have a product to offer in most of these applications. In fact, 3/4 of all the applications that we looked at are going to be in roll-to-roll or film or tape, not spray painted. So And by the way, they can also do that pre-preg I mentioned, the composite pre-pregging, if you're familiar with that. There's Dr. Kissel, he's the brains behind it. I've been at this for a while. Renee keeps our books. This is the guy I want to hire. And then we have others who are keeping the ship running here. Pete does all of our control systems and electrical work. We need that. Walt programs the robot. Brad makes most of the product, the prototypes. And that's it. Good timing, thank you.
Good timing on your part. Thank you, Andy. We've got 15 minutes to fill in the blanks, beginning with Ed, and then Mike, and then Jay.
Oh, it's already cute, just like for the president.
Just watch their eyebrows. I know there are questions. You want to go second, Ed?
I was just asked a dumb question about airplane wings, and he answered it. And you answered, he said you're gonna start painting aircraft wings with this stuff.
Yeah, we've done, everything we learned on the wind turbine applies to the airfoil of the fixed wing aircraft. So.
There was a big article in the Journal today about de-icing.
I saw that.
Sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
Southwest
what I
was,
immediately thought of.
yeah. I think that's a great use for it. I'd love to see it.
Are your patents, you have an IP mode that's
Good question. We have
wide.
yeah, we have 2 patents from Rice that are exclusively licensed to us. We have a lot of trade secrets. I have 1 patent pending for the water-based version of this coating.
I'm going to jump in here. Rice is one of the schools that U of M benchmarked when it overhauled its tech transfer organization a few years ago. They do good tech transfer.
Yeah, let me tell you, I hate to admit this, I tried to get this out of Ohio State. It was impossible to work with them. They were just impossible. So I went down to Rice. Yeah, exactly. It took 3 weeks. Now they claim they're getting better, but I don't believe it. Anyhow, Rice, the deal took 3 weeks. I stopped talking on the phone when they said the terms. I'd like, okay, this is good. Let's just sign now. I didn't argue. So anyhow, that's how we got the Rice patents. My patent is pending for water-based because one of the big OEMs we were talking to said, we're never going to spray solvent-based stuff in our shop, so you better figure out a water-based solution. And we did, because I wanted that, to continue.
I have a general question, Ian.
Yeah.
So you're doing a $4 million ask. I saw 60% is operations. I assume capacity is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an idea of how much revenue you can get to with that, because you obviously got some longer putts and probably will do another round. But for this round, what can you get to?
Good question. We just came back from Europe with our space heater. They believe that because there's a power savings involved, they can take that to market at $349 per unit. And they told us they believe they can make $300 million a year at it. If we get some single-digit percentage revenue or royalty out of that, we think we can make several tens of millions of dollars just in that one space heater.
Does Rice consider that a sub-license? Or do they consider it revenue to you that then they?
Then I pay them, I pay them 6% of what we get, so that's one. Then we have tea kettles and 5 or 6 others and Snuggies.
And your capacity that you'll add with this raise, you can fill that need from the.
Yes, because we don't, aside from the roll-to-roll, I don't want to hire a whole bunch of people or start manufacturing. I want to license this to the OEMs and let them do the rest, right? So I'll send them a roll of film. They'll cut it and put it on whatever part. They'll do all the hard stuff. And we might have, I kind of view it as like OtterBox. They have maybe 30 people upstairs designing phone cases, and they get made somewhere and shipped somewhere, but they don't have a big staff of
It's
people.
a brand.
Yeah, all we do is prototyping, design, that kind of work, because we know how this works really well. And then we'll let the OEM take it from there. We'll hand the baton. As a matter of fact, since you mentioned it, we're going to partner with a group called Nottingham Spurk. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're a world-class design firm. And they've made, over the last 50 years, they've made 1,400 consumer products and some medical devices. They're pretty good at it. And we want to sort of let them lead in that realm. They can do FEA analysis. They can do a lot of things we can't do. So we're going to partner with them to move faster.
Very good.
Jay, Sean,
I'm
Kevin, you're good? Kimberly. You're up.
Okay, the joint question here, we're bouncing off each other. Durability, what is the durability? Does it vary on surface? And thought about that when you talked about your driveway, it's panels versus, painted surface.
Yeah.
So if you can answer that durability on different
Sure.
surfaces.
So it all depends on the coating you put it in. So we started off with a marine grade coating because it was designed for harsh environments and sun and wind and all those things. Turns out it's a better idea to either encapsulate it or enclose it with a substrate or put it under the concrete or protect it in some other way. Only because that way you're not exposed to all those elements and there's no moving parts. So there's no real, my sidewalk's been running for 4 years. And then in a horrifying event this week, we had water issues in the basement. They came out and put in new drains everywhere, all through the front yard, but they couldn't get under the sidewalk, so they cut my sidewalk. And I'm like, okay, you gotta be aware there's a heater under there. And they cut into that. They took about the last inch of that panel out. And I said, okay, I've always said this thing would work even if you cut it, and it turns out it does. I hooked it up, I got a clear image, it works. As long as you don't cut the lead that drives the power, and then as long as the electrons can make it flow across the surface, it'll work. So.
So it can get scratched or.
Yeah, in fact, you can
and
poke
should
holes in it.
still- Okay.
And another
That-
horrifying
that was-
example,
Yeah.
I was over at Hyundai or Hachi over here, and I told one of the Korean engineers that you could poke holes in it, and he took his Big Pen and poked a hole in it. And I'm like, what are you doing?
What you said, I'm sure.
Yeah. And sure enough, it worked, so, yeah.
That's right.
It was not what I expected, but it worked, so.
I got a question. You said for higher voltages, you need UL or CE certification.
Yeah.
Is there any risk to that, and what's driving that?
Anything over 50 volts, you need UL approval. So that's why we got really good at low voltage stuff. So we got good at 24, 12, 7. For radiant floor heating, there is no option. It must be 120 volt. Everybody I've talked to said, we don't want to hear about your 48 volt solution because they don't want to deal with power supplies and transformers and all those things, right? They said, make this work at 120 volt or we're done talking. So we have another stack that we're sending to UL this fall. In fact, the run should be done in October. We're going to send it up to Chicago in November. And they'll do several things, leakage current testing. There's a grounding plane on it. So it will be more expensive to do it that way, but it'll get UL approval. And then we can, go with our radiant flooring and under concrete snow.
But all the consumer devices you were showing don't require UL certification.
No, they will, but we're relying on the partners to do that. So if Instant Brands wants to do a tea kettle, they're going to figure out UL for us.
Yeah, you can't UL a material, it has to be a product.
Right, yeah, so.
And voltage, the semiconductors that move voltages around, that technology, it's old school to have to do everything at 120.
I know.
Honestly, there are building houses with DC.
I know.
But
And
Ken's
yeah.
point is if you're dropping the voltage, you're raising the current, so you're going to use more copper, and you're not raising the current, are you?
Well, you're right. The average goes up because it's all about watt density.
That's right.
That's the only thing that matters. So if we're down to 7 volts, we're going to draw more watt or amps to get the same heat, right? Good news is we know how to design all that, make it work. So,
All right, so tell me about the design collaboration with, who is the design partner?
Nottingham Spur.
Nottingham Spur. Is there a product they've done that we would all know?
The spin brush was their most famous. The little
Is there another product that maybe?
David would know.
I know what's coming.
Okay, well, that's,
But yeah,
so a design firm
yeah.
that is doing the industrial design and fabrication, are they doing the material design? You just told me that you designed some part of it, and I want to know where the handoff goes.
So here's an example of how they can help. To do the tea kettle, it took us about a year because we did not anticipate, we thought this is easy. You put heat, water gets hot, it boils. Not so easy because you paint a stainless steel cylinder and you have copper tape and you have a coating. Well, all those things have a different thermal expansion, right? So as they get really hot,
There's conductivity.
exactly. So now I've got 3 different kinds of materials getting hot in different ways, and it wasn't working at all. the thickness of the metal matters, all these things. We finally figured out how to do it, and it's all about how we lay out the heaters. It's exactly like how we do it for the wind blades, by the way, because they bend a lot. And so you, just like you make a radius with bricks, you can have straight bricks that make a curve. We lay out our heaters in segments so that we can curve with the blade and not be disturbed in terms of delivering heat. So,
Okay, so
They're
where's the
playing.
handoff between the design
Yeah.
that Nanotherm does and the design that Design
so
does?
back
Are
then,
they doing the bricklaying?
yeah, they'll do that. And they can do it in a computer. They can have FEA analysis, so they can plug in the materials we're using. They know the
So
thermal
you've given
time.
them some parameters
Yeah,
that they can design within.
right.
That was my question.
And they claim, and we'll find out, they claim that they can take our 12-month process and do it in 3 weeks. We'll see if that's true.
It still takes 12 months to ship the China.
And then we hand off to the OEM who says, here's how we're gonna paint it, or what film, or whatever.
All right, Tino?
As a former mountaineer who's had frostbite, I would pay $3,000 for a pair of insoles.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we know there's some opportunities in clothing, insoles, things like that. And low voltage. So the best low voltage example I have is a hair straightening or flattening iron. They called, it was a company in Europe that called and they said, can you make these little 3 by 1 inch ceramic heaters? We needed to go to 365 degrees Fahrenheit on 85 watts of power. And I said, sure, we can do that. I had no idea we could do that. Ran back to the lab, painted some panels. And it turns out we got to 365 degrees in that segment on 11 watts of power. So now you're talking about 2 little 18650 batteries in the handle of the
Hair straightener.
hair straightener. Thank you. So it's all portable, and now there's going to be this trend to go cordless. I think with a lot of these things.
That's a good answer.
That'll be popular.
Other questions for Andy?
Teenage.
Just seems like this is a lot bigger than OtterBox. Can a startup do this? Can a startup execute on this opportunity, or does it need to be a flip?
Just tell us about the elephant man.
Yeah.
Now, that's
No.
a great question.
We need to find the right people and the right partners and segment this thing out. So somebody might want mobility or passenger cars, for example, but they have no interest in consumer appliances. And so we'll find a partner in consumer appliances and we'll license to them, find a partner for aviation, license them. It might be GE for wind, might not, might be Nextera or somebody else. But you're right, we don't have the ability to, we can't grow that fast with angel money.
Just thinking 3 on the select.
I tried that twice. And they said, oh, you know what, we're gonna do it ourselves. And then a year later, they called and said, can you send us more samples? And I did.
Not after you told me you were gonna do it yourself.
Yeah. And everybody I'd been dealing with was gone. And I don't know if they moved or quit or were fired or whatever, but yeah, we've tried that. And there was an article in the journal about that a few weeks ago too.
And there was a panel yesterday at Michigan Tech Week with our founder, Kurt Baumgarten, and his opposite number from 3M.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's which door you go through sometimes.
I think that, yeah, probably. It would have been great, but
Can I ask one more question?
Sure. Jen, go ahead.
What's the exit plan for a company that's doing all this licensing?
so good question. The conversations we're having, let's say, for example, we're talking to a tier 1 automotive supplier who made last year $120 million in just steering wheels, right? Heat for steering wheels. They would be an ideal partner for this, and we'd license to them. They'd own that category. There's a similar conversation going on for,
Is that an exit?
well, in a segment, but then there's,
Does that return value to shareholders?
oh, absolutely, 100%, yeah.
I think that's important to be clear about because this kind of
I thought
licensing.
John had the elephant in the room. Yeah, you got it.
No, I think there's lots of ways to make that exit happen in different verticals, but we've got to be smart about it. And that's why I also need more help, because this is a platform technology and it's going to change the way everything is heated. So that means a lot of smart people need to get involved and help pull this thing. I can't do it.
So this is where we talk about angel added value, the stuff that we bring that isn't money, that is more valuable.
100%.
So that conversation begins here And where it leads is up to each of us and all of us to imagine if you had a ceramic block that could emit this kind of wattage, what applications, what partners, what fabrications. You've got our minds working. Andy Dixon from Nanotherm, thank you. We've got a bunch of updates and one of them is live. So I want to continue a story that we told in the spring about the presenter that we had back in 22 from Curio Genomics that was working on a genome project that was more complex than the human genome. But at the time, I was getting pushback from their founder. Their founder was telling me, well, you know, I'm not going to be the guy. I have this other stuff that I do. And I said, well, when you get a CEO, that's a good time to come back and do an update. And they took me up on it. So I'm very pleased to connect you with Tony after I turn the television on. You know how it works, okay? I only just figured this out. You're quite study. Go down and boom. I thought it boomed.
Or Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Tony Devschmel gave a presentation that I had seen before, but I had never seen before. It was like he translated it into investorese better than this startup had ever done so before. And with the talent that they have, you know, their tech was such that it needed a Tony Devschmel. He gave this presentation at Invest 360 last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And he must have thought he bombed because afterwards he left. And then he won and we had to go and find him and drag him back on stage.
It's true.
It's all true. Please welcome Tony from Curio Genomics.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to refresh the story of Curio Genomics here. So like David was saying, I'm the new guy, right? I'm the newly appointed CEO of Curio Genomics. The rest of my team is sitting over here. And if you haven't met them, I encourage you to go talk to them. They're wonderful, engaging folks, really smart people. And it's such a pleasure to be a colleague with them. But a little bit about myself is previously I was CEO of a software company, an enterprise software company out of California. We sold that company this summer to private equity. And I was going to take a heck of a long time off because of that. But then the Curio opportunity presented itself. And I jumped at the chance because that's really exciting to me. And why it's exciting to me is not only does this position leverage sort of my SaaS software experience, but it also lets me get back to my roots. I was previously a bench scientist in a proteomics and biotech lab at the largest seed company in the world, and that's Pioneer Hybrid. And when I was there, you know, I learned about the challenges and opportunities that they need for genomics and the genome analysis. And I saw the Curio tool, and I think it answers it. So I'm here to kind of tell you why. So here's the problem. Global crop production must increase by 60% to feed our population. A new seed, an improved seed, takes 10 years and $20 million to develop. And this is all being done in the face of climate change. So there is, you know, the concept and the whole field of genomics out there, which offers a solution. But crop genomics is really hard. It's a lot harder than human genomics. Crop genomes tend to be much bigger than human genomes. The wheat genome is 5 times bigger than the human genome. So the tools that were developed to do human genome analysis won't work in crop genomes. They simply break. You can ask Sean. But what's really cool is Curio makes it easy and really fast. And here's a screenshot of the Curio dashboard. You can see it's very user-friendly and intuitive. But don't believe me. Here's one of our comments from one of our customers. This is from one of the world's largest cereal grain companies. John says, I did in 1 hour what it would have taken our team 3 months. And that's not an exaggeration. And hopefully I can show you here. Here's what's currently happening for crop bioinformatics. if you have a crop bioinformatics project, you have to engage a bioinformaticist to lay out your project into 29 to 50 steps, right? And then for each one of those steps, you've got 29 to 50 separate, unintegrated, different tools that are used at each step. And these tools are command line script generated stuff. They're not easy, user interface tools. So in current bioinformatics, it feels like you have to do the stepwise serial fashion. But with Curio, you get one integrated solution that takes only minutes to run and not weeks or months. And it truly is that different. So here are the logos of some of our customers. And you can see that they're equally balanced between government and academic customers and also in commercial customers. But importantly, you can see that they actually consist of the big players in the ag industry. We've got folks like Syngenta, BASF, we've got the USDA, we've got CSIRO, which is the Australian USDA. We've got all sorts of players using our tool, our online tool. So a key reason for our customer satisfaction is really the Curio platform is done. Product development is done. There's no, this is not vaporware, this is real. It's being used daily by our customers. And really what I find impressive about it as well is it's an online cloud tool. And you think with an online cloud tool, with the sizes of projects that are required in genomics, that they would take weeks or months to analyze. But the way that Sean and the Curio team has architected software is these the cloud architecture, we can engage up to 15,000 CPUs at one time for a project. So, to the extent that our project takes weeks or months when done serially, because we can do it in a parallel fashion, we can get it back to them in minutes. And that makes a big difference when it comes to making and breeding decisions. So, that's it. Thank you.
I'm done wrestling with this thing. Could you put up my slides on your machine, please?
Yeah.
Do you have a US? Yeah, right here. Just put that way out there. Because yours works and you can't
Yeah, I know you didn't, you didn't even have slides. That's called Zen approach.
The Zen approach?
Yeah, so she took no slides, no ass. No, just.
David told me.
Coaching.
The Zen.
Too much information. There should be a PDF.
We're here to golf course, kind of like a tie web. Yes.
Or this will work too, or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so.
I thought you were like eventually under prepared, you were like upper prepared.
Here, this PDF is
I
great.
did first. You can tell your teacher.
Yeah.
Is your, you want to click on it? Click on it.
I don't know if that's good.
Oh, okay, go ahead, give me the
From
PowerPoint.
your line work, really good.
I can go full screen.
Not quite sure.
I'm just.
I can go control level.
Maybe.
Say again?
Your name's on F11. F11.
F11.
Nope. Okay, let me see. Thank you. Brilliant. Oh, you're very kind, Tony. Thank you very much. Please mark your calendars now. We'll be back in this room on December 20th. It is the third Wednesday of December. And we'll have a little startup-free celebration of what has been a phenomenal year for Pointe Angels. You're warmly invited to join us for cocktails, drinks, and brief remarks, and to bring a significant other, especially if they're an angel investor. So last chance, save the date, there it is. And I'll put that also in next month's meeting invitation. Next month's meeting is November 15th.
Hunting.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Opening of deer season.
Gross Point.
Okay, sorry.
Forgot where we were.
I'm like, really?
No, we have somebody go hunting for us.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. All right, I'm going to give you a couple brief updates of portfolio companies and companies that have presented previously. First, new proud portfolio company, Breadless, that joined us a couple of months ago, thanks to Brian Curtis, who saw something that was really compelling. That really compelling thing gave birth last week to its second location. So you recall that when Breadless was first talking to us about their franchise concept, they only had one. Now they have two, and they've got a site selector for 3. So we're really excited about Mark Hudson's startup, and their food was at the after
This
party.
second location is next to a Panera.
I know.
Is that a joke?
Way to get on their radar, right?
Jesus. Wow.
So thank you for reading my slide. I'm not going to read them. But here's their product, which we enjoyed earlier this year, which is a wrap that has no bread. It's all wrapped in dino greens.
Where's the first one?
And they're delicious. The first one is on, it's between Larned and Jefferson, about a half a mile east of downtown.
Really?
I don't know what the, just go breadless.com, you'll find it.
They also did sampling at America Park this year.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Not for nothing, they've got a couple of real good marketing minds there. Cognition presented a year ago, November, and this was a C round, a really compelling C round, unusual for angels to look at. The new management team had bought out the founders, put in $1 million of their own money, and were seeking $5 million to do a gross market expansion. They talked with a couple of VCs while they were here, though they were really coming to visit with Pointe Angels. Well, they finally closed their round. So back to the earlier slide with Carta about how rounds are taking longer to close. They closed with Spring Lake Equity Partners, but happens to be around the corner for them, and because they're in Boston, and so is Springfield. And their C round is significantly expanding the go-to-market on their product line of medical device compliance and product management software, a category that they currently lead. And no VC like Spring Lake puts in $5 million if they're not expecting an exit. We missed the opportunity to have a sidecar. They took out the round. So I had a little chat with the CEO and the founder, and I said, are you going to raise any more? Because if you do, you've got to dance with them that brought you. So that brings me to the pitch. Yes, I am still an entrepreneur at heart. Pointe Angels exists because we support it. We don't support it with our dues, though. We support it with a donation that accompanies every check that you write to a company that presents here. We call it a donation because it's a lot nicer than saying, pay up, buddy. But seriously, it's a disruptive model. So much so that we had other folks from dues-paying angel organizations try to partner with us for our deal flow. And we were very kind to them, but the point is that if we're using a investors support the club model, then they have to be in this club. I expect that next year we're going to find that this room is getting too small. So that is my pitch. Lightspeed Concepts is a manufacturing tech company that presented also last winter. They make a 3D sand printer. Yes, there is a huge market for 3D sand printing. I didn't know this, for casting. They use a plant-based binder that makes the sand printing higher resolution and lower environmental impact. And they also filled around and are using their money to make a single pass binder. Not being schooled in this, I would rely on the folks who are really attracted to sand printing to tell me why that's important. And I see Mike is nodding. This is a big deal.
Well, I know precision casting, so that's a really innovative way of doing it.
It is. They're pretty cool company. Sample Serve presented, oh gosh, 2 years ago, a digital transformation tool for field data collection, and they just closed a massive new contract with Eurofins. Eurofins is the go-to. It's the Jiffy mix, if you will, with massive market share for doing environmental lab testing. We could see that this digital transformation replaces the current technology, which is of course clipboards. And then Vern AI, it's interesting that we're doing an update on a company that presented last month. Vern has hired Sam JJ. I guess he's a legend in conversational AI, or at least Citigroup thought so, because he was in charge of conversational AI for Citigroup, which takes a lot of phone calls, and a lot of them are being fielded by robots. Now he's taking his expertise to Vern, which is marketing a tool that does emotional analysis of text and speech. I see Julia's taking notes on this one. This is a nice overlap of some of the same core technology that came out of Michigan State University. They were comped into a $3,000 booth opportunity at AI Dev World. Of course, their tool depends on AI developers to bring it to market. And then they got another channel partner in Eaton AI. I'm really excited about Vern AI, and I look forward to corralling those folks who last month in their participating in our investor game Carp Tank said that Vern AI was worthy of some investment. So Carp Tank. From last month, Carp Tank is a duplication of a gamified investment platform that I developed at the Ross Business School, and they did it in Qualtrics, which is some weird survey platform. Our really close and personal friends at Catalyst XL, the makers of Cardware, another proud portfolio company, just offered to do it for us in their Cardware platform. The rules are easy. You get $1 million. You have to spend as much or as little of it as you want on the companies that we talked about today. They are Alchemie, Peru, Culturewell, Curio, Nanotherm, and then the updates from Breathless, Cognition, Lightspeed, Sample Serve, and Vern. If Mark Reynolds has already touched you, you have this on your phone.
Yes.
If he hasn't, please point your phone at this and you will get the game. The game is called Carp Tank, and the whole point of it is to bet like Jay Farmer. I'm not kidding.
Who's he?
Jay, stand up. Jay is the first winner of the Spirit of Pointe Angels Award.
Really?
Jay beat Carp Tank at its own game. His bets were the best bets made last month. And he feigns humility, but we know he's good at this. What I would like you to do is try to beat Jay. So we can't keep giving it to Jay every month.
Yeah.
So point your phone at this. It will direct you to the Carp Tank game. You're looking at an alpha version of the game right now. They're really busy rolling out a big intranet for Chevy and are kind of shoving us in around the corners of their development team. And we're very grateful to the makers of Cardware for that. But what you'll see is the opportunity to put up to $400,000 on any one of these. And of course, you're not obligated to spend your whole $1 million, but you could figure out what you saw today that was compelling, what you saw that was interesting, where you understand the risks, where you think there's a connection, a personal or a group connection. That for whatever reason you're gonna. But take a few minutes to do that now while I pour the whiskey for Jay.
All right.
Better.
Yes.
Am I allowed to bet on myself?
Are you allowed to win?
Okay, Glenn.
I don't understand how you can.
How do you win, David?
Yeah, I don't
They get funded or what?
That would be the ultimate win. They would exit would be the
That would
better.
be the win,
No, what CarpTech does is it collects all of the bets that are made by everybody
right?
and then compares them to each of the bets made by any individual investor. Jay's represented the spirit of Point Angels.
Okay.
I wish I had a predictive that would say, you know, which one of these is gonna have the big exit.
Put it all on. Funny.
Yeah, put it all on
I
red.
think that'll work out.
Oh, sorry.
Investments with-
Oh, dear. Tony, is this
I don't.
fixable?
It's Tony's fault.
And I have it on good authority that this is Jim Agley's favorite whistle.
Oh, yeah.
Very hard to get, by the way.
So we have a tradition. Has everybody taken their picture? Please do play. It's better when we get more.
Won't let me sign up. Maybe I don't have to sign up.
No, you shouldn't have to.
Just let's skip through this one.
Unless they changed the software. I didn't think they did. All right. So we have another tradition in Point Angels. This one's a little bit older than CarpTech, which is called the deal bottle. For those investors who have made an investment in a presenting company in the last period, we invite them up to toast the success of their ventures. So I would like to have Brian Curtis join me for a toast. Did I miss an investment? This is an opportunity to raise your hand and say, oops. No? All right, Jay, Brian, please. This is also how I keep them from bed. You. Yeah, so that we have a good. Kayla, would you capture this moment?
There you go. Okay, cannonball.
Good.
Cannonball.
All right, one more. Yep, okay, we're
Thank
good.
you. Cheers. To the success of our ventures.
Nice. Congratulations.
It's too good to.
No, that's why I did. That's why I did.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's smooth. Yeah, it's plain. It's not about.
I do, poor dog.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
No, I don't do that.
David,
I'm nervous.
David,
All right.
you capped at 400K.
Yes, 400K is your maximum single bet. That's a brophy.
How'd you?
That's
Brophy.
That's Brophy's rule.
There you
That's
go.
Brophy's rule, you can't go all in, you gotta.
Can't go all in.
side?
Yeah, you have to spread it around.
Oh, that's.
Okay. Yeah, but how do you get your total?
That's in version 2.0. Today we're playing with the alpha.
Oh, absolutely. I think I went over my.
Did you? Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah.
You went over?
I just got thrown money out there, yeah.
Oh, you.
No, I only 200, but I went over a bit.
I took off the barcode, so nobody else needs the QR code. We got this?
Yes, good.
I'm sorry that we went over. We learned a lot tonight. Thank you for making this evening really, really exciting. And keep me posted on the questions that you have of our presenters, the ones that you didn't want to ask them in person, and of the showstoppers. Why would you put a deal to the curb? And let's see if we can get those solved. Also, if there's somebody who belongs in a deal and they maybe missed this presentation, it's up to each of us and all of us to make sure. Thanks for joining us. See you on November 15th. We are adjourned.